Design Hub is a meeting place. It was conceived as the idea of bringing together all the different strains of design research at Rmit. So we've got architecture, industrial design, fashion, landscape, interiors, games, media and communications spread across multiple venues at the university. The Design Hub allows us to bring all of those things together and to have everyone working under one roof. The idea is to in doing that, is to forge cross-collaboration, that people will literally eyeball each other more and enable conversations to flow more freely than they ever have before. And the bigger idea of the Design Hub is to mix up all of that bringing together, to mix up all of those meetings of minds with the chance to exhibit those outcomes so that you get that full arc of design research in one place. So you get prototyping, you get the research and writing and thinking about design, that iterative process, alongside exhibition outcome, and then perhaps finally archive, and we have an archive here at the Design Hub, so that you see that full life of a research project. We knew we needed help in doing this. And the best way to do that would be to open it up to a number of different designers to get their feedback on how we might do that. We were aware that we were bringing together lots of different kinds of design disciplines, and that each of those would have a different take on perhaps how we talked about the Design Hub, because the Design Hub, because it is so varied and has so many different tenants, they would all have different needs. And Fabio Ongarato Design, who won the pitch for that, I think really won it because they spoke back to us. It was hearing your own ideas come back to you in a way, come back to you with clarity, I suppose. It was hearing the needs that we had re-articulated in ways that we could see working in a physical and online environment. So it was hearing the brief come back to us in the form that we were looking for. Now that might sound a bit sort of self-congratulatory, or a bit patting yourself on the back in hearing your own language spoken back to you in a way that makes you excited. But when you put a brief out there, I guess you're feeling in the dark in some ways. You're being very particular about what you want, you're being very conscious about what you want, but it's not until someone gives it back to you in a designed form that starts to visualise words on paper, that the project starts to become real, I think. And I think that was what's so exciting about what FOD came back with. That they had found a way to take what was a very complex brief with so many different stakeholders involved and find a way to bring it all together in a way that seemed to really, really capture what it is that we were wanting to talk about. The brief ends up being what binds the two of you together. It is the springboard for work that goes on, and it's the reference point for the work that comes back. And I think the brief is the bit of language that you share throughout the life of a project. So in order to get that relationship to work, it's about really making sure that brief is as tight as it can be before it goes out, to workshop it with everyone you need to do in your team before it hits the designer, to make sure all of your stakeholders are heard before it goes out. There's nothing worse than it later someone saying, hey, well, I wasn't consulted, and how do we work in that, those needs, once a project is started. But it's about, as a client, being flexible enough to take on criticism, suggestions, potential new directions, but maintaining why it is that you set out on this journey in the first place. You've got to know what it is, why you want what you want, but yeah, leave room for it potentially to get better when you bring two minds onto the project. It's saying what you want to say in a way that is fair and reasonable, but has honesty at its core. You need to be able to say to your designer, and your designer needs to be able to say to you, I don't think this is working. We need to be able to question one another and push and pull one another in a fair, generous way. I think What I'm most proud of in terms of the Design Hub website and the printed matter that we have is the consistency of the language that we're able to project, the consistency of the voice that we're able to project. We talked about, we use words like we wanted a website that was, extreme in its simplicity, that had a choreographed chaos, that was intellectual, creative. Words like this are pretty challenging, I think, in some ways. But I hope our website reflects that desire. I hope our website, in particular, when people land on it, they feel like, wow, there is a lot of stuff going on here. Because that was really the intention. To use that front face of the website as a notice board, as a sounding board, as an alarm to the things that are going on. The website itself uses those default graphics that are so present in the building. And it's interesting, actually, a lot of people who say, your design makes more sense to me when I've been to the building. In fact, because they are so interconnected. The building is all made up of the concrete, glass, rubber, steel mesh, and these sorts of default materials are reflected in the design. And I really like that there is this connection, this harmony between the two, because it's a harmony based on a kind of chaos, which is lovely. I think if I would be so bold as to give advice, it would be about being hungry, maintaining that hunger, and to remember to remain political, I think, to remember to ask who you're designing for and what is their experience, to make sure that work is grounded in the real world, but not tethered to just what we know right now. Someone told me that best thing you can do when you make a project is to keep it small, critical, tight and fun, and I think that's probably quite good advice.